There he is. Guys, the Kyle Major.
I get a definitive article right in front of my name. That's awesome.
Absolutely. You deserve that article. Man, so as I was explaining before you hopped on, that this is the first time on Pastors and Slippers that we've gone outside of Lynchburg and even outside of Virginia.
Yeah.
Because you are currently in Pennsylvania.
That's right. Northeastern Pennsylvania.
Scranton, Pennsylvania?
Scranton, Pennsylvania. Yes. Home of the office. The only thing we can claim.
Hey, yes. That's all right. That's all right. But so yes, Kyle Major. And I know that many of the people that will be logging on know you and love you because you were known and beloved. Oh, man of God, all caps.
Oh man, I'll take that.
Holy smokes. So here's what I would say. We're going to have a conversation. But if people from Waymaker.Church, if you get on here and you have a story about Kyle, Tyler, this is going to be how it goes right here.
Oh man, no. Okay. Story about Kevin. So, okay. For people that are watching that don't know, that was a joke at Waymaker when I was on staff. Right. Zach Buckle accidentally called me Kevin and it stuck. Oh man. And then more stories.
So, okay. We're going to tell the AirPod story.
All right.
We'll save that one for later.
Okay. So Kevin, but fun story. So like fast forward, I get to Parker Hill and there's a guy on the campus team with me and his name is Kevin. And so on one of the first days that I'm here, I have congregation members coming up and calling me Kevin. And I was like, oh man, it doesn't leave. It just sticks. So
Kevin, okay. I don't know if Zach will be on here because I'm not sure if he knows how to use Instagram yet. Yes. But explain the story of how you got the nickname of Kevin on staff at Waymaker.Church.
Okay, so it was literally like day 3 on staff, and I can't remember how it all came to be, but we were having a conversation in like our little lobby there that you're sitting in, and Zach Buckle felt the need to say, man, you know what? I really like you, Kevin. I don't know what it is about you, but I think it's your face. I really like your face. And I was like, thanks, man. My name's Kyle. And I walked out. And
so you like,
I am so glad that happened.
You addressed it though. I mean, you didn't let that slide. You're like, no, I mean, my name's not Kevin. My name's Kyle.
I'll totally be here for, the next 2 years for the residency. So I wasn't just going to let him call me Kevin, but he did anyway.
And then, and knowing Zach, the reason why he continued that was because you stood up to him.
Right.
And
because I challenged him. So
you challenged him. And it was one of those like territorial, like wolf type things, hey, like this is my zone. So you're going to be Kevin from here.
Most definitely.
And it followed you to Parker Hill Church.
It totally did.
That is amazing. Zach Lyon is on. And he followed to Parker Hill.
He did. Yes, he did.
Oh, that's so exciting.
Yeah, it followed, or did I drag him? It's one or the other.
Yeah, one or the other.
Either way,
we're gonna save the AirPod story for later because I legit was like, we are telling that story on this call.
All right, good deal.
So, hey, let's. For those of you who don't know, because I know we'll have maybe some new Waymaker.Church people on, or some Parker Hill Church people. But Kyle and his wife Brenna, which we won't say who we like more of the couple.
It's fair.
You guys were a part of Waymaker.Church, and you specifically were on staff for a couple of years as a resident. And truly left your mark, your thumbprint on our church. But man, we got to kind of commission you off to your next adventure, and that was in Pennsylvania at Parker Hill. So just real quickly, explain to those that don't know, what do you do and where do you do it? Because I know they have multiple campuses.
Yeah, so we have 3 campuses spread across northeastern Pennsylvania. and I'm at like our starter campus, what I grew up in. So I actually grew up going to this church, and this is the oldest campus, and so I'm the campus pastor, which means I kind of oversee our campus staff. So we've got a student pastor, a next steps pastor, and a kids director, and so I kind of like lead that team, and then we have one of those teams at each of our campuses. And then we also have a central team that kind of takes care of all the back end work and like big picture stuff. So we kind of like sit on the front lines and are directed by. We have a directional leadership team, which much like your executive team, that is led by Mark Stenzi. He's our lead pastor. So
I like it. Okay, so before we get into like the first official question, I know Travis is on here. I know Nicole's on here. We mentioned Zach's on here. Guys, if you have your favorite like Kyle story or memory, just drop it in the comments, and let's make sure the whole world can know about this. So
none of them will be good. They will.
It'll be fantastic. Okay, so let's start off. It is Pastors and Slippers. We are still in a season where we're encouraged to work from home if we can, to practice social distancing. So what is your footwear choice while you're at home? I think I have a feeling, but you need to confirm it.
I do have a pair of slippers that I did wear intermittently during the first month of working at home, but I realized quickly that I am not nearly as productive if I'm not wearing actual shoes. So I do wear white sneakers. Pretty much. I have like a pair of sneakers that I wear like while I'm at home. Yeah. So what'd you think I wore?
No, but that makes sense. I mean, I thought you wore slippers. Like I would consider you to be a sophisticated man in some regards.
I appreciate that.
The coffee that you drink, your glasses, that kind of stuff. And so I would assume slippers, but it makes sense that psychologically having white shoes helps you to put in the frame of mind to be effective and productive.
Puts me in the spot. Yeah.
Okay. Zach Lyon says the time he thought he had a toe hitch.
A toe hitch. Oh, okay. That's more of a personal Zach and I story, but sure. There was one time that he bought a jet ski, a wave runner, and wanted to take it to the James River to test it out. And I was like, dude, but he didn't have like a truck or anything. He doesn't have a hitch to like he just bought it on a trailer and with nothing to tow it. And so I was like, yeah, no, I've got a hitch. I definitely do. Like, actually, I know that my car has a hitch. And so we drive to the jet ski, and what do you know, but my car doesn't have a hitch. And he's like, first of all, how do you not know? Second of all, how do you think that you do when you don't? And I was like, I just would have sworn I had one on the back of my car. So,
first lesson from this episode, men who wear slippers should not be trusted with toe hitches.
Probably fair. Yes.
Okay. So let's talk about your church and what's happening within your church. First of all, just because again, I know that part of it you'll be speaking to your campus, but then there's of course multiple campuses.
Yeah,
just talk about how the people of Parker Hill have been affected by this past season, COVID-19, social distancing. What are some of the effects you've seen in your church body?
That's a good question. I feel like there's been a lot of attitude shifts. Even like I feel like every single week there's like a new perspective shift that takes place. Just because of the way oftentimes I think media kind of surrounds the situation. It changes the way people are thinking and viewing things, and they're wrestling to figure out how does God fit into all this. But I would say the way that probably the biggest impact that the virus has made on our people is really probably job loss.
Okay.
That's devastating. When there's, when a family that has 3, 4, 5 kids and both parents lose their jobs, like,
wow,
absolutely devastating. So
Mm.
that's probably been the biggest. We've probably taken the biggest hit in the kind of in job loss. That's been a lot of conversations that we've been having, probably
Yeah.
over, especially in this past month, because businesses tried to make it through the first
Yeah.
month and then realized this
Yeah.
is a long-term thing, and so furloughs and layoffs just happened much more frequently.
Yeah. That it's two things that I've been hearing, as we've done this. This is the 7th week that we've done Pastors and Slippers. It's the primary things, right? Emotional. So the feelings of anxiety, depression, loneliness, and then there's the economical aspect of job loss and just uncertainties when it came to financial stability. So
Yeah.
Do you think that you guys have been affected more since you're closer to a larger city that's kind of been in the news as a kind of epicenter of this?
Absolutely. I mean, like virus wise, yes, somewhat, but I would say regulation wise, absolutely.
Okay,
That's probably been in this time, there's been kind of like a shift from fear and anxiousness to just anger and irritability, like in this, with people. In phone calls, you hear it a lot. There's just like a restlessness to get back to normal. And I think a lot of that is because we know for our area, being, just a few hours outside of New York City, we are not going to be coming back online, or reopening as nearly as quick as everybody else in the world. Florida's opening their beaches, but we're not even, Jersey beaches aren't going to open for a while now. So it's like, that is probably the most frustrating thing for people to not know particularly how long this is going to last. And so that brings about a lot of anxiety and anger.
Yeah. That makes sense. How are you guys caring for people as you find out, or even, how are you finding out about needs? How are you caring for people in this season?
Yeah. On a grand scale, we're trying to make as many connection points as possible. Just like many churches, we're making phone calls every single day, writing letters, things like that, kind of doing different service things for first responders and essential workers. So a lot of like personal touch points with people and kind of keeping track of that, making sure that we're checking in regularly, and meeting any needs that might come up. But really, probably that's been the most moving part of all of this is watching God's people be kind of activated in this time, which that was kind of walking into this we were wondering to see how are God's people going to respond? Like, are they going to be tight gripped and try to hold everything toward like close and hoard everything, or are they going to walk around with open hands, wanting to share with people and meet needs? And really, the latter has blown us away. We have it, especially for Scranton, Pennsylvania. We've made somewhat of a name for ourselves for being the least charitable place on earth. And
well, it was Michael Scott's fault.
So. Seriously.
I had to make one office joke. I'm done.
I was waiting for it. Okay. But there's Zach Buckle with Kevin.
Hey, listen, Zach finally figured out how to use Instagram. He gets on, and literally the first thing he says is Kevin. So, Zach, we did tell the story already for those that didn't know. And Ellie says hello as well. And then Marcus, who took over your title as best dressed on staff.
Oh, wow.
As not self-proclaimed. I officially gave him that title after you left.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, exactly. So,
that's awesome.
He deserves. Speaking Ellie, Marcus,
he very much deserves it.
Zach, Ellie, Marcus, if you guys, we're sharing stories. So if you have a funny or awesome story about Kyle, just put in the comments and we'll interject real quick and we'll tell a story. So what area of ministry do you think like Parker Hill has been really excelling in? Like, man, like we have really crushed it we could even be like a voice of like just an example and a challenge and encouragement because of this aspect of ministry. What would you think that is for Parker Hill?
Yeah. I mean, honestly, the first thing that does come to mind is kind of that, like you said, if we were to be a voice, Parker Hill and there's a couple other churches that are kind of, how would you say, gaining ground in Pennsylvania,
Okay.
because of their generous response to the crisis. Like I said, because of the name that we've kind of created for ourselves, it's allowed people to see who God's people really are. And when rubber meets the road, and when bad times come, when pressure comes, that's when you find out who you really are.
Yes.
And so to see God's people respond, I really think that Parker Hill, our people particularly, have responded in such a way that brings about a new name for our city. That we actually are people that stand together and that are willing to sacrifice for one another, or at least that's what our church is about. And so so we've done a couple of cool things, partnering with different food banks. We're hoping to do a lot more of that in the near future. Different food drives through schools, and we've seen the church kind of show up in droves, whereas where our volunteers are outnumbering the volunteers of the people that we're partnering with, because our people are itching to get to it. So which is really cool. Like, we've got a list of we have a longer list of willing to helps than a list of needs, which is that's always a great problem to have. So so I think really our people have responded in that way, and that's been encouraging, especially for me coming back to my hometown. It brings a lot of hope. So
that's incredible. Cool. When you mentioned the idea of pressure being applied, we got some stories there. We'll get to those. Don't worry. But when pressure is applied, the only thing that can come out, the only thing that will be visible, is what was already in there, right? And sometimes we can manage in our personal life, in our families, in our churches, organizations, we can manage kind of what people see and what comes out. But when that pressure comes and crushes us, I remember giving this example in one of the Institute classes, like having a cup and just saying, like, if I were to squeeze this, the only thing that you're going to see that comes out is what's already in there.
What's inside. Yep.
Right. And I think a lot of families are experiencing that. Right? Maybe they thought they were awesome. Oh, we're managing our image. We're doing okay. And all of a sudden pressure comes and things get kind of exposed of there was, a lack of health in this area. There was unresolved or unreconciled relationships in this area. And it's awesome to see, like, to hear that your church is really stepping up, that this is almost an opportunity where their passion, their love, their generosity, their servant's heart is coming out, which is great. That means that there were certain seeds planted in previous seasons in your church that are now beginning to show a really cool harvest, a cool fruit. So but that's good, man. That's really encouraging. I love that. I love the idea too of just changing how Scranton is known, and the church being the catalyst to that.
Yeah. I think if anything, that's what I'm really thankful for in this season. Like, because everyone's striving to find out what gratitude can I have in this moment, and that is definitely at the top of the list. Is like how God is allowing this difficult moment to give us the opportunity to kind of change the way we are seen, or the way that it gives us more opportunity than ever before to reflect God's character to the people around us. So,
Absolutely. Listen, the people are speaking. Jeanette says Kyle is just one of there's that article again. Great.
That article again.
Marcus says Kyle equals GOAT. Which, in light of the Michael Jordan documentaries, like that's a big deal. The greatest of all time. Nicole also wants to make sure So we'll get there. I'm gonna make people wait for that story.
People right now are like, headphones,
Headphones,
paste?
tomato paste, guys. If you
This
don't
is
know,
supposed to be the same story?
you have to wait. Okay, we're gonna make you watch this thing. What does Ellie say? I don't have a funny story, but I will say intern development with Tanner and Kyle. Oh, were
Sweet
so
moment.
incredibly impactful. So much
That's
healing
cool.
and hope. And if I'm not mistaken, this is when I was gone, which
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know how I should take that, Ellie, when like your favorite like development was when I was actually gone and Tanner and Kyle filled in. But I'm gonna choose trust and just choose that you're trying to encourage Kyle and not put me down, because that's a healthy culture.
That's why you're a great leader, man.
But honestly, I still hear people talk about that season that you and
That was a
Tanner
cool time.
led intern development. What? Just give a 15-second like recap of what did God do in that development? Like what?
Oh, cool. Yeah. So Tanner and I had the opportunity to kind of walk through something that's really been personal to us for the past 5 years or so, is just kind of what some people have called the inner journey, and just kind of the journey inward, recognizing that there is a lot of work that God wants to do through the gospel in you. That, like, it's not just, oh, you realize that you are in need of salvation once. It's a continual process of just looking back on life and taking Jesus with you, and
Mm-hmm.
allowing Jesus to kind of show you where he was in every step of the way,
Yeah.
and allowing him to kind of reframe the way that you understand not just your story, but his story intertwined with yours. And so it was just it's a really powerful moment for each person to kind of have that self-actualization, where you're able to kind of go with other people as well as Jesus back to the hardest times in your life and
Yep.
say, where was Jesus? What was he doing? And now what does that mean for me now? And
Yep.
so it's a powerful thing to walk through.
Yeah.
And it was really cool to be able to have that, like, the 5 or 6 people that were in that room go through it together. So
Yeah.
it's a
And I don't
bonding
know if you
moment.
know this. I don't know if you know this, but now Ellie's on staff,
Yeah.
and it's awesome. So,
Yeah. That's so hype.
when you were describing kind of what you talked about that development, I thought about this concept. We're all oftentimes in our adult lives, especially in leadership, we are controlled by the middle school us
Yes.
that
Mm-hmm.
experience that thing,
Mm-hmm.
or the high school us that is we're almost enslaved
Yeah.
to that person, and we don't even
Yeah.
realize it. It's capped our leadership, our influence. It's capped our growth, our development, our faith, our understanding of even who God is as our Heavenly Father. And
Yep.
what you did is you helped people go back to that middle school moment, that
Yeah.
elementary moment, that college moment, and say, like you said, like, where was Jesus in that?
Yep.
Like, how can he redeem and restore and heal what happened there? And then how does that change how I live today and
Yeah.
move tomorrow? And we so strive to do that with anyone
Yeah.
that comes to our development. And it's
Yeah.
a standard. We did this with our institute students in, I think it was our spiritual leadership class, where they had to do a personal development plan,
Yeah.
which really stemmed out of a lot of what you guys did. So, and Tanner
That's awesome.
is waving the banner. Even if you're not here, he's still marching forward with that.
My
So,
dude, I love that. Yeah, I keep on saying, you never really notice how much 6-year-old you, 12-year-old you, 15-year-old you is calling the shots right now.
that's right. Come on.
And you don't even
Come on.
notice it until you kind of go on that inner journey or go to counseling. And so I encourage both. Like, that's what allows you to actually go back and look at yourself, in that moment of heartache, in that moment of pain, and be able to preach the gospel to yourself and say,
Yeah.
I understand what you're believing right now, but let me tell you what the truth is. And that's a game changer.
So good. Man, so good. Hey, Nick Wojcik says
Oh
La
man,
Ca lunches.
dude, I love that guy.
Is there a La Coretta up in Pennsylvania, Scranton,
No,
Pennsylvania?
no, we have good stuff though.
Okay.
Like Mexican, yes. Uh,
What's the equivalent? If I went to Scranton and I needed like
mhm,
a La Ca experience, where would I go?
yes. Um, there are two places. Hacienda Vulcan on Pittston Ave, and oh shoot, what's it called? It's gonna come to me in the middle of somebody else, one other question that you ask. I'm just gonna be like, oh, and then
Taco
I'll
Bell?
remember. So yeah, nope, no, Chipotle? No, not
No.
exactly.
Okay.
But yes, so right down Hacienda Vulcan. That's a good place to start. It's literally right down the street, the other one. That's
Okay.
where all the best stuff is. Yeah.
I
So
like it. I like it.
yeah.
Okay, so let's get personal. What
Hmm.
is God teaching you? I mean,
Mm.
you not only in the last year or so stepped into an incredible position of leadership at a church,
Hmm.
but then now you're having to lead a community of people through a
Yeah.
difficult season, and you're still fairly new in your marriage. I mean,
Hmm.
how many
Oh
years
yeah.
now?
Two.
2? Okay, yeah,
So
that's pretty.
yeah,
That's
that's
still
pretty
pretty
new.
new. So I can imagine that God is cultivating something in your heart and your mind. I can imagine He's growing something. So talk to us. Where are you growing as a leader, as a man, husband?
Mm. Um, that's a good question. It really has been a shift, kind of coming up here, big time. I mean,
Yeah.
when it comes to leadership and responsibility, like a new area, I mean, even though it's an old area for me, it's still a new area of ministry,
Yep.
administering to a new area, and I've had to learn a lot of like every step of leadership you take, you learn that you don't know anything.
Mm-hmm.
Like
Mm-hmm.
there's always more to learn, and so I've really had to learn how to. So personally, for me, and kind of like my own leadership, not trying to help everyone and fix everybody's problems so that they don't have to do anything, and try to give all the answers. Like, just
Mm.
doesn't work that way. It's all about helping someone take one next step, like,
Yeah.
and you looking for yours. Like it's
Mm.
we talk about next steps a lot, but it's about the next step, not like the whole journey. And
Yeah.
so really just helping people kind of take whatever their next step might be. So it's been actually like a shift for me, because I really want to like package everything up really nicely and help a person never have any problems ever again. But that's not how
Yeah.
life works. And
Yeah.
so it's actually in the problems that the growth happens. And so you can't just like protect people from things. It's even this virus. I mean, obviously we're going to wear masks and stuff like that, but you can't just say, oh, everything's fine. We
Yeah.
have to recognize, okay, this pressure, this pain is for a reason. What might
Yeah.
it be? And so how is it helping us take that next step? I think in ministry as a whole, we're really learning that no method is sacred. And
Mm.
the only thing that is the mission. And
Say
like
that
more
again.
so than
Say that
ever,
again. Say that again. Say that again.
no method is sacred. It's just the
Come
mission.
on.
And
Come on.
so, which we've said that before, but we've never really tied that to Sunday morning. Like Sunday is just kind of it's become the traditional Sabbath when we step away and we draw our
Yep.
focus away from work and everything else, and we put it on the Lord. That's good, but that's something that can happen throughout the week. Like
Mm.
that is something, like church is something that should happen throughout the week. And so
Mm.
even recognizing that even things like Sunday morning are on the chopping block, that's a game changer for churches everywhere. So I think that's something for the church that we're all learning.
Yeah.
What really are we, what golden calves are we making
Ooh.
just because of physicality,
Yeah.
and how might that be holding us back? So that's like, that's a thinker that you have to spend a lot of time on,
Yeah.
for a good amount of time. So that's one for the church.
Can we? I want to go back. I want to get
Mm-hmm.
deeper with what God's teaching you personally.
Yeah.
One of the things that people know about Kyle, and everyone on this, everyone that knows Kyle on this Instagram can attest to this. There are very few people who care as deeply for others as you do. It's a gift that God has given you. Okay. How have you managed, like in a season where I can imagine you feel the weight and the extreme crushing pressure of like the concerns, the anxiety, the emotion, the physical difficulties of people in your church, but also being distant from them, not being able to like be just hands-on and like wanting to, like you said, wanting to package up and fix their problems and protect them and keep them safe and, help them be just like Jesus tomorrow and, all those things. How has that affected your soul and your emotions and your mind?
That's a great question. I mean,
my goal is to make you cry. If you didn't know.
That's all right. I can understand that. That's always my goal.
Okay.
Yeah, it is like I've come to this point a lot in life where I start to realize that I am putting a lot of stock in something that I shouldn't. It kind of the ability to always draw near to people and almost carry the load with them, as opposed to really like helping them learn to exercise so that they can carry their own load, or mobilizing others to come around the person, as opposed to me just doing it. And so it's been hard, especially in this kind of stage of leadership, trying to help mobilize the church, not just try and do things myself. And so that's a pride check, and that's hard. And there's part of me that feels like not unfulfilled is not the right word, but there's part of me that got a little bit of a boost from other people's from myself helping other people.
Yeah.
And like and then thanking me and then saying like, oh, this is great, thank you very much. And I get a high from that, and to kind of be removed from the ability to do so, that causes me to say, what am I finding real worth in?
Ooh.
And is it the right thing? And so in this time,
just real quick, that question, what am I finding worth in, is a question that we've all been forced to ask in one way or another. Okay.
Yes.
Like obviously you're talking how that question got answered and how it manifests specifically in your life because of how you're wired and gifted in the position of leadership. But all of us have been forced to ask that question.
Yeah. Like
so,
I'm totally with you. If people are, some people are putting they have put their stock in a long time in their job and their money, and we were watching that fall through the cracks. Like everybody is getting hit with this. Like engineers are losing their job. Like that's people that thought they were secure, put security and worth into something. They're realizing there's got to be something more. I had friends call that realized the community that they were surrounding themselves with weren't people that they can call in a pandemic. Wow. They were just people that they in like and I can see myself doing the same thing. Am I spending more time with people that need me, or am I mobilizing people to meet needs and spending time with the people that are life-giving and I get to give life to, the people that I love. And so, I think everybody's in that spot where they're trying to wade through the worth of what our last normal was.
Yeah.
And hopefully this new normal will be characterized by things that are of actual worth and value.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Man, that's good. Well, what do you learn as a husband?
Well, since we are in the same house all the time, always, it's very easy to slack on things that like I used to do as a husband.
Yeah.
Not just like service things, but like, romantic things. And there were priorities that I had that were easier to do, like taking her out for dinner on a date,
Yep.
and things like that. Like I have to get creative and and not just rely on what was normal.
Yes. Yeah.
And yeah, so I'm kind of learning that being a husband and supporting her, serving her in this time looks very different than it used to, and I'm still figuring that out. You know, like that we're like, how do we prevent that kind of like roommate mentality where you're kind of just like always, you're just, ships passing in the night, but we're actually continually on mission together as a family, and we are working that out.
Yeah, a burden that I felt that even we as Waymaker.Church are going to lean into. I really think in the next couple of weeks is for a lot of couples, even Christian couples. Okay, Christian couples aren't immune to this. You go through life, and all of a sudden you wake up one day and you look at the person that you've been waking up with for the past decade or two, and you're like, oh, who is this person? Yeah. I don't think I know this person anymore, right? Over time, we just kind of drifted, but drift over a long time, you end up in different hemispheres.
Yeah.
And, my concern is like in this season that maybe that has been escalated because it's almost like it's been put into a pressure cooker.
Yes.
And it's easy to just that drift to be sped up to where, like you said, ships passing the night in the hallway, passing in the room or bedroom, and it's almost like it takes more fight to keep that level of unity, oneness, intimacy alive. And when I say intimacy, I mean emotional, spiritual, and physical. Because this isn't like we're not doing like a talk on marriage or anything, but if your sex life is struggling, it's not just physical intimacy. I would ask questions about emotional and spiritual intimacy, which is just openness. It's vulnerability. It's saying, hey, I have nothing hidden. I don't have any guards or walls up. And I think the church is going to have to answer that, and probably will have to address some of the effects or the fruit of that in this coming season as a church and as we minister to people in our communities. So that's good. I love that you're leaning into that. I love that you're staying attuned to that.
Yeah, like I said about that irritability that's rising, that's that's affecting marriages heavily. Because when something goes wrong in the upstairs office at work, like and you plan to kind of try and work through it, unfortunately you only got so many people around you in the house, and the irritability comes out, and that anger comes out, and it's not trying to hurt a person, but it's just like by association, and then that just those moments are just pile up if they're not actually talked about, met with, and so it's going to be a need, if not now, more than ever in the future. So
it's good. All right, so I've got a question. We're going to do the AirPod tomato paste story.
Okay.
And then we're going to finish with like the big question. So this is more of a practical thing. when and it's different. At least in Lynchburg and Virginia, things are really starting to open up. We're in phase one. We'll be in phase two in a couple of weeks or a month or so.
Yeah.
And so, things are opening up. Churches, some churches started gathering again this past Sunday. A lot more starting this Sunday. So just talk to me about, how are you guys thinking through strategically on opening up physically as a gathered church? Like, what are things you're talking about, thinking through, et cetera?
Yeah, that is a good question. And it's a difficult one to answer. I think like everyone's trying to answer it. What does it look like? Well, there's tons of conferences going on every single day online of how do we navigate this? And pretty much everybody says nobody can really nail down specifics, but they'll nail down generalities. And there are some general things that are similar. There's, a lot of people are speaking of just kind of shifting, especially for this time, but then for the future, shifting your focus from being a local church with an online presence to being an online church with a local presence. Like that understanding that, okay, right now, for a good period of time now, this is our best that we can give is online. Like the best way for us to continue our mission is going to be online. And so until that is no longer the case, which I think we're realizing is never gonna not be the case, because the people that we hope to reach are not coming to church. They're not even over the past few years, it's still on a steady decline as far as are people going to church, but there's a steady incline of people's interest in God. And so, that the best way to kind of meet those is through an online presence. And so there's a ripe possibility or harvest there that we're hoping to take advantage of in this time, and really perfect. And until we can have a service that really matches that experience, that quality, physically, then we're going to have people, go online. And so until you kind of mentioned, there will be a lot of complications kind of moving into the next few phases.
Yeah.
So for us, for a long period of time, there is going to be massive sanitation happening every single service, in between services, lots of distancing happening, lots of requirements for entry as far as things go. Like those are the things that we have to be thinking through, and we're trying to consider what will that look like, and will it maximize that experience? Or is it going to cause distractions, or is it going to be too much of a barrier or a hindrance between the person and God? Our whole goal is to like eliminate those obstacles. And until we can actually, host a service that is really, giving people a direct line to encounter Jesus and experience his presence on Sunday morning, then we want to direct people to a place that can happen. And right now it's online. But like you were saying about phases. Yeah.
Real quick. So I love that, because, we hadn't talked about this before here, but yet there's a lot of unity in what we're talking about. I think that churches were very anxious to get back in person.
Oh yeah.
Right. There was just this almost like this,
I'm anxious
to
get back in person.
Let's get back in person. But not thinking through how the experience is going to be different, right?
Yeah,
like
it's going to be very different.
And every church, I think is so uniquely wired and so uniquely sculpted to carry out the Great Commission, right? Mm-hmm. But there are some churches that it's like, hey, we might be able to gather, but it's going to be weird and probably not going to accomplish what we believe God's called us to as a church when we gather, right?
Yeah.
And so if that's the case, then what do we have, and how can we do it really well? Which is what I hear you saying. It's like, man, we're changing the way we think about online church and where are the people that we're trying to reach, and what type of experience, what quality of experience can we provide under the regulations and the recommendations of our government. And then, you know, comparing those two things, which I think is really wise. It's really wise. And I actually believe that God could give different direction to different churches.
Yes.
Like, meaning like it's, I don't think this is thus says the Lord and it's the same for every church family. Again, I think there's so much uniqueness in the different churches and what they're called to. And it's the leadership's job, under the submission of the authority that God's placed us in government, using wisdom, His Spirit, and His Word to say, hey, this is what it looks like for our church. And that's what we're doing as leadership for Waymaker.Church. It sounds like what you guys are doing as well, which is awesome. Yeah,
our rollout, you know, reopen plan is going to look different from other churches in our area because our vision is different, and that although our missions are very well much the same, you know, we're all answering the Great Commission. Our mission our vision is very different, and our the size has to do with some stuff. And so when we go, like even when we get into green phase, for Pennsylvania, the gathering limit is still going to be like lower than our normal attendance. Like it'll be our crew, you know, like that's what we can max out. So just like the same way that the state is following a phase plan, we'll have kind of like a phase plan of our own that'll be you know, much talk of in the near future. But there are some things that we're wrestling with, like I mentioned, as far as the online experience that we are hoping to increase and continually analyze. Is our physical gathering experiences going to be accomplishing the mission and seeing our vision come through the same way that it is online? And until then, you know, we'll phase in. So those are the thoughts that are going through.
That's great.
The actual plans are soon to come. Yeah.
You mean you can't tell us?
I mean,
I'm just kidding. Hey, okay, we have like 10 minutes before we're kicked off.
Okay. Yep.
So I want to get to the story real quick, and then I also want to ask the last question. So,
okay,
here it is. What on earth does tomato paste and AirPods have anything to do with each other? Go for it.
Okay. Yeah. So these AirPods are extremely special to me. So
are those the ones? Are they?
Okay. These are the ones. Oh yeah. 2 years ago. Yeah. So just about 2 years ago, I walk into work at a Waymaker, and I noticed Tyler Lower. He is distraught for some reason. I'm not entirely sure. It just didn't seem like he was having too good of a morning. And so I'm talking to him, you know, normal morning conversation, getting coffee, and I'm like pulling out my headphones, and there's all, you know, I got the strings out all over the place. And he said something along the lines of, "Man, you haven't switched to cordless headphones yet?" And I said, "Man, don't you think I've tried?" And he's like, "You've tried?" And I go, I had a decision to make in that time. Do I share this story with Tyler, or do I just skirt it? Because I know if I share this story, I will be humiliated. And
if you share the story, one day you're going to be on Instagram Live.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Telling the story.
Yes. But before that, Tyler will tell every single soul that he meets, because that's just kind of, that's what Tyler does. So, but I noticed that he was having a bad day, so I told him the story anyway. So basically, here's how the story goes. I was scrolling through Instagram one day, saw an ad for extremely cheap headphones, and like they're like fake AirPods. I don't know if they're fake AirPods, they're AirPods. Thought I was getting AirPods for like $30 or something like that in the mail, and I am at the time.
That wasn't a clue enough for you.
Right. I know. So I get a small package in the mail, thinking, oh man, these must be it. It's about the same, about the weight, it's about the, you know, size. I open up the box, and it is a small can of tomato paste, about 8 ounces, 6-8 ounces, and from somewhere in North Carolina, ordered by somebody someplace else in the world. I don't know where. All I know is I didn't get any AirPods in the mail, and I was
Instead,
out $35.
you got a $35 worth can of
Can of
tomato
tomato paste.
Look, that must have been a great can of tomato paste.
No,
Oh, and
I'm pretty sure I just threw it straight out.
the thing we laughed about as a staff was whoever pulled that on you, like went to the, like they could have just taken your money,
Right.
but they went to the extent of
Yes.
delivering
Yes.
the can to you, almost as
Like going online, going to Walmart.com and ordering a can of tomato paste and having it sent to my location. Just so that I knew you were scammed.
You were scammed. Kick the man while he's down. Just put salt right in the wound.
So the gospel story in this is
come on.
A month, I don't know, it was a few weeks later. I'm about to get married, and I walk into our normal Thursday staff meeting, and I am given a gift for my wedding that was a set of AirPods purchased by several staff members, and redemption. And you know what? I've honored these AirPods ever since.
Oh, I'm so glad.
Making them last, yeah.
I'm so glad you're wearing them. Lindsay, Nicole, Lindsay said with her optimistic heart, maybe the person who sold them also sold tomato paste and just got mixed up. Oh, that is so
That's
Lindsay.
So sweet. Yeah.
Oh, that is so Lindsay.
Optimistic.
I love it. That is great. Yeah, they just got it mixed up. They had a tomato paste business.
Honest mistake.
And a fake AirPod business, and they just, they you know what? They sent the AirPods to Kevin.
That's probably true. Yep. Mm-hmm.
Oh man, that's great.
Actually, yeah. So then, anytime I did something any remotely close to that, it was a Kevin move.
Yes,
that's what that became. Yeah,
absolutely. Hey, 3 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
How is the church going to be different on the other side of this? And I think you were already starting to get a little bit into that, but just, come on, we got it. This is like the final round. 3 minutes.
Oh gosh, how will the church be different? I think the church is going to have to respond to some very different problems. I think there's going to be a fear of fellow man that's going to be big. That's going to be like, because you go out into the grocery store and you just kind of run past every person, you get around them. That fear of fellow man is going to be a cultural obstacle to overcome. The gospel is going to have to preach to that. I think also there's going to be a belief in something that people can't see anymore, or something that people will be more prone to believe in something they can't see. Believe that thing has an effect on their life.
Yes.
So I think that's something that people are going to be a little bit more open to, recognizing that, maybe prayer is actually something that has power, because it's even though I can't see it, I know that something's happening. I know that God's at work. Also, maybe God has something to do with my life. So I think there's going to be a vast opportunity that will be capitalized on, but I think there will also be less of a tight grip on things, not just for church members, but church staff members are gonna be a little bit more open-handed, which is going to be great. That's a good thing, with the things that they should be, and that gives you the opportunity to actually hold on to the things that matter. So I think there will be a greater openness. How will the church change? I think there will be a shift towards from very material to very spiritual. We realize now in this time of pressure that that what we have, filled people's cups with, is what's coming out right now, and people are filled with anxiety. So there's a lot of there are disciplines and security, certain resiliency habits that are spiritual habits that have been, practiced for centuries and centuries, that we are going to start coming back to, because we're recognizing that when times of crisis come, that's what's essential. That's what's going to come out. And
give us one.
Prayer is going to be, I think, is huge. What does it look like for me to be alone? How do I be alone? I think that's something that was a struggling concept walking into this crisis was, okay, we're all alone now. How do you do that? Like, what does that look like? What does it look like for me to be alone with God? And I think learning what that looks like on a daily basis, not just on Sunday morning, not just when I'm in a worship service. What does it look like for me to be with Jesus on a daily basis? So I think there's going to be there's been a tradition shift to innovation, and then probably back to tradition, but not as it was, kind of revamped.
Okay. I like that framework.